Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Matt. This is Bask in the Story, and today we're going to go through my November TBR. And there's really only one place to start a November TBR, and that's Nonfiction November. So if you don't know, Nonfiction November is organised by Olive from A Book Olive, and she gives 4 one-word prompts, challenges, keywords, call them what you will, to inspire you to go and pick out some non-fiction and read more non-fiction in November. And if none of the prompts take your fancy, though they're quite broad, so you can normally find something, just pick any non-fiction. If you never read non-fiction, pick one non-fiction. It doesn't matter. Any non-fiction is great. So this is really just to encourage more people to try and pick up some non-fiction, because there's some fantastic, entertaining, and even funny non-fiction out there to enjoy. So this is my first year doing Nonfiction November. I normally like to read some non-fiction throughout the year, but this is the first sort of dedicated month of non-fiction. Don't worry, there is some fiction as well I'll be getting in, but I'm going to start with non-fiction. I'm going to try and hit all 4 prompts if I can. So we'll run through them in the order I remember. So the first one is fraud, and for fraud I want to read Cultish, which is about cults and the language cults used. And I believe it's more than just your archetypal religious cult. It also looks at like MLMs and other factors of that sort of sales, how they engage people to be part of these groups, even if they are fraudulent and nonsensical. So that should be really interesting, because anything for reading and the use of the English language is quite fascinating. So that's number 1. The second prompt is web. And for this one, I want to read Entangled Life. So this is a book about fungi, or fungi, depending how you want to say it. And the reason I put this as web is because it's the wood wide web. So it links plants underground, and there's now evidence that trees can sort of chemically communicate through the fungi to each other to warn of predation or anything like that, which is absolutely fascinating. I have a keen interest in biology anyway, and nature, and fungi just occupy this weird space in life where they're not animals, they're not plants, they're their own unique thing. They can be absolutely microscopic, and also the largest organism known to man is also potentially a fungi. So it's just a bizarre world that inhabits our world. So this should be a really interesting book. I've heard fantastic things about it, so I'm hopeful for this one. So that one is for web. The next one, the third prompt, is capital. And for this one, I've taken a sort of financial, literal interpretation of that as capital as in money to start a business or grow wealth. And for this, I wanted to read The Ascent of Money. And I believe this book is really about sort of the history of money and how money has driven all innovation and knowledge, all human innovation and knowledge, which sounds like a fascinating premise, and I'll be very interested to follow that argument along and see how influential money is in the idea generation of centuries since it came, and how that the key integral parts that plays within it. So that sounds really interesting. So that is for the third prompt, capital, and that's The Ascent of Money. And then the fourth and final prompt, which is, I've already started, to be honest. So the fourth and final prompt is display, and the book I want to continue reading and finish reading in November is Invisible Women. And this is about the data gap around women in the world, and how men, or the average man, is seen as the average human rather than the average woman, and how our data is very male-centric, and the impact that has not only on women but also on society in general and at large. And as I've already started this book, I've read the first few chapters, or listened to the first few chapters, and it is just fascinating, frustrating to listen to and to see the gaps in knowledge, but it is enlightening, to say the least, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So fingers crossed that continues to be, because I think this could be one of the best books I read this year. And the way it started anyway, absolutely engaging. It's quite a sort of campaigning book of why do we have this gap and how do we close it, and the importance of closing this gap as well. But anyway, I'll talk about more when I've finished it. I'm really enjoying it so far. So that's non-fiction. So there's 4 non-fiction to hit each of the 4 prompts. So let's move on to my fiction reading. And some of this will be what I said I was going to read in October because I haven't got to it yet. So there'll be some repeats here. And I haven't got to October. October turned out to be quite a busy month because we went on holiday, and holidaying with a toddler isn't as relaxing, and you don't get quite so much time to read as I used to. So that didn't get much done. And then I started a new job, so time has sort of changed this month and sort of had very limited time to read. So I am behind on my reading, but I have started Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I was hoping to read in October. Enjoying it so far. I will finish it in the first few days of November, so that should be about finished when this comes out. We've then got the other one that I was planning to read in October for Halloween, scary book, my first ever Stephen King. Still haven't got to it yet. It is a priority for November, so I will be starting that. As soon as I finish Frankenstein, this will be next on the agenda, because I do really want to read this. I want to see what Stephen King writing is like. And I haven't really read any horror either, so this is hitting all of them and seeing how I feel about it. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it, so we will find out. So this should be, I was going to say a fun read, not a fun read. It could be a pretty harrowing read, but hopefully it'll give me some form of enjoyment. Again, is that the right word? We will find out. So that one. And then the other thing I want to finish in my fiction reading is the Faithful and the Fallen series. So I am 3/4 of the way through Ruin, and I've got Wrath. What do people say? I think I say Wrath. Now I'm thinking about it too hard. I'm not sure what I say. Anyway, this one that I'd like to finish as well. So if I can finish this series in November, that would be superb. So they're the main ones I want to read in November. So I've got 4 non-fiction books and then a range of fantasy, mainly stuff that I haven't finished from last month that I really want to get into this month. And there's one possibility that I might get by the end of the month, depending on library and when it gets, but that's Legends and Lattes. I know, cozy fantasy. I've heard so much about it. I know the new one's out. Is it Bookshops and Bonedust, or Bonedust and Bookshops? Anyway, I've not read any of the Travis Baldree. It's obviously a hugely popular, and cozy fantasy or low stakes fantasy is not a genre, subgenre I've really read into. So we'll see what it's like. But it seems like the right time of year, heading into cold winter months, to get cozy with a book. So why not try out some cozy fantasy? So hopefully I will have that by the end of this month, but it's possible that it won't be till December, but we'll see, depending on when it's returned to the library. And that is my plan for November. I don't think there's anything else. There may be a couple other books thrown in. We will see how it goes. But thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you are going to be reading this month. And I will be, next week I'll have my wrap up, and I've also got a review of a new release, which I read the arc for last month. So you'll get that as well next week. And I'll see you then. Bye.